It's 2 a.m. You wake up. You walk into the bathroom. You flush the toilet. Technically, you just broke the law. In another country, the government can measure your waistline and punish your company if it's too large. In a small European town, dying was once officially forbidden. And in France, you can legally marry someone who is already dead. These aren't myths. They're real laws, and they exist right now. Let's start in Switzerland, a country famous for precision, order, and silence. In many Swiss apartment buildings, making noise after 10 p.m. isn't just rude. It can cause real trouble. Vacuuming, loud music, running a washing machine, and yes, even flushing the toilet. There is no dramatic federal crime called illegal flushing, but local housing regulations treat excessive nighttime noise as a disturbance, and neighbors take it seriously. Swiss culture is built on mutual respect in shared spaces. Apartment living isn't chaotic, it's structured. There have been real cases where residents received formal complaints for making noise too late at night. Are people arrested for it? No. But warnings are issued. Complaints are filed. Tensions rise. In Switzerland, silence isn't optional. It's expected. And if that feels strict, wait until you hear what Japan decided to measure. In 2008, Japan introduced a rule that sounds impossible: the Metabo Law. It targets metabolic syndrome, a condition linked to obesity and heart disease. Companies and local governments must measure the waistlines of employees aged 40 to 74. Every year. If someone exceeds the limit, 85 centimeters for men, 90 for women, they might be required to attend counseling. The employees, not fined. The companies, heavily penalized if too many workers are too large. This isn't about fashion, it's about healthcare costs. Japan has one of the fastest aging populations on Earth. Rising medical expenses were a serious threat. Critics call it intrusive. Supporters say it works. Japan has one of the lowest obesity rates among developed nations. Still, the idea that your waistline becomes a national statistic feels almost dystopian. A measuring tape, enforced by law. In 2012, a small town in southern Italy faced an unusual problem. Its cemetery was full. No space, no room for burials. So the mayor did something incredible. He issued an ordinance. Residents were forbidden from dying. It sounds absurd, and it is. But it wasn't meant literally. It was a protest, a way to pressure regional authorities who had delayed expanding the cemetery for years. And it worked. International media covered the story. Headlines screamed, "A town where you can't die." For a short time, legally, dying inside the town was forbidden. Italy has a long tradition of political theater, and this was a perfect example. Sometimes bizarre laws aren't about control, they're about forcing action. Now, imagine walking past an official notice in your town square. No dying allowed. It feels impossible, but it was real. Singapore is one of the cleanest cities on Earth. Its streets are spotless. Its subway stations shine. There's almost no litter in sight. And that didn't happen by accident. In 1992, the government made a radical decision. Chewing gum was banned. Not restricted, not regulated. Banned. Importing it became illegal. Selling it became illegal. Why? Because people kept sticking gum on subway doors, elevator buttons, public infrastructure. In some cases, gum even interfered with train sensors, disrupting entire rail lines. The government decided it had seen enough. heavy fines were introduced. Enforcement was strict. Years later, limited exceptions were allowed, but only for medical gum sold in pharmacies. To outsiders, this sounds extreme. But Singapore's leadership has always believed that strict rules create order, and the results speak for themselves. Low crime, clean public spaces, a city that runs like a machine. In Singapore, cleanliness isn't a suggestion. It's enforced. It's cultural. It's policy. Perhaps the strangest law on this list comes from France. Since 1959, the French government has allowed something almost unimaginable: posthumous marriage. Marriage to someone who has already passed away. The law was created after a tragic dam collapse. Hundreds died. Many were engaged to be married. The government wanted to give surviving partners a chance to formalize unions that death had interrupted. Today, a posthumous marriage requires presidential approval. The surviving partner must prove that the deceased intended to marry them. If approved, the marriage becomes legally valid from the day before the partner passed away. But here's the catch: the living spouse receives no inheritance rights. The law exists purely for emotional and symbolic reasons. It recognizes love, interrupted by tragedy. Strange? Absolutely, but also profoundly human. Among all bizarre laws in the world, this one stands apart. It reminds us that sometimes law isn't just about rules. It's about closure. It's about honoring what was meant to be. From midnight toilet rules to government waistline measurements, from banning chewing gum to temporarily outlawing death. These laws may sound absurd at first, but each one reflects something deeper: cultural values, public health, political statements, or historical tragedy. What seems ridiculous from the outside often makes perfect sense from within. And somewhere in the world right now, there are probably even stranger laws waiting to be discovered. If you want to explore more of the world's most unusual rules and see shocking realities you won't find anywhere else, subscribe to CurioLaws. Because the truth, it's often stranger than fiction.